From the 1011 Now streaming studio in Lincoln, Nebraska, this is the REPORT Husker Show, sponsored by Fat Dog's Convenience Store.
Alrighty, welcome into the 1011 Now streaming studio. I'm Danielle Shenk alongside sports director Kevin Sjuts for the REPORT Husker Show, brought to you by Fat Dog's Convenience Store. Kevin, after one season as defensive coordinator, John Butler is out. Is that surprising to you?
Absolutely. After one season and then after just a few days following the Iowa game. The regular season just ended on Friday, Nebraska losing to the Hawkeyes, and then Matt Rhule makes a pretty bold move. I think that's what's surprising here is that John Butler, pretty short leash with him as Nebraska's defensive play caller. Danielle, I think the biggest thing here to learn is the final two games probably ultimately decided John Butler's fate. Nebraska's defense had a pretty decent season, but the last two games when there was quite a bit at stake, and they were classic Big Ten football games, a lot of running the football. The Huskers struggled stopping the run. They gave up, 38 points to Penn State, 40 points to Iowa, and those two games put Nebraska's record at 7-5, and apparently Matt Rhule felt like something had to change defensively because not only the point totals, but also the fashion in which the other teams got the points. They converted well in the red zone. They ran the football, and I think that's maybe the concerning element there is if you can't stop the run, what does that look like going into 2026? Nebraska is going to now be on its third defensive coordinator in 3 years. Remember, John Butler was promoted to replace Tony White when he left last year for Florida State.
Yeah, and so, they were good with pass defense, rated, number 2 in the country, but apparently that's not enough.
Think about the teams down the stretch, though. They didn't pass the ball very much. And that's where this is a very unique dynamic because Nebraska, the pass defense, rated high all season long. Think about Deshaun Singleton, had a really productive year. Sierra Wright put himself in the position to possibly play at the next level because of his productivity this year. And even some of those younger defensive backs, Rex Guthrie, Andrew Marshall in his first season at Nebraska, they had good seasons. But when Nebraska faced teams that prioritized the run, that's when the struggles really hit.
Mm-hmm. And so now with Butler out, who's going to be replacing him?
Well, Phil Snow is the interim defensive coordinator for Nebraska's bowl game. Phil Snow and Matt Rhule have a very long history. He's already here in Lincoln and on staff as an analyst. He'll become the defensive play caller for whatever Nebraska's postseason situation looks like, which I believe we're going to talk about here in a minute, Danielle. Phil Snow and Matt Rhule, he's like the comfy old blanket for Nebraska's coaching staff and for Matt Rhule in particular because Rhule and Snow go back to 2001. That's when Snow was the defensive coordinator at UCLA. Matt Rhule was working under Snow. So fast forward 20-some years, and now Rhule is the head coach, and Snow is just right there on staff, ready to help out however needed. And Snow has a ton of experience. He's been in the coaching profession for more than 40 years. He's been in the NFL. He's been in the college game, and he was with Matt Rhule both at Temple, at Baylor, at the Carolina Panthers, and now he's going to serve as Nebraska's defensive coordinator for the bowl game.
Yeah, and it's kind of just a lot to wrap your head around of such a short leash for John Butler after just 1 year. Are there some people maybe thinking, why not give him a little more time to work with the run defense? Or was it just no, we got to make a change?
It makes you wonder if there's something else there beyond, the on-field production. Is there something internally? Because a lot of the players, if you think back to when John Butler was promoted, there were several Nebraska defensive players who really advocated for Butler to get that position, most notably Sierra Wright. And he had talked about how, their paths were a little bit similar, that they both came to Nebraska from very different avenues. Butler came from the NFL and not getting the defensive coordinator position with the Buffalo Bills. And Sierra Wright was in L.A. playing at USC, and he just needed a change of scenery. So they both arrived at the same time. They had a very unique relationship. Butler poured a lot of time and energy into Sierra and helping him through the transition. And I feel like Sierra maybe did the same thing for John Butler and just kind of a confidant. They had a unique relationship, and there were other defensive backs because that's what he coached in 2024. He focused on the Huskers secondary, and so many of those guys were at the front of the campaign to have John Butler be promoted. That's what's unique here. He's very liked inside the locker room, specifically amongst the defensive backs.
Yeah, and with how much work he put in for that pass defense, why not maybe make him take a step back and go back to being defensive back, and then maybe give Phil Snow a try?
Yeah, it makes you wonder, too. Is there somebody else that Matt Rule already has lined up for this position? In the press release, which is fairly brief, that the media received on Monday after this news broke, it indicated that an announcement, a full-time, long-term announcement, will be made in the coming weeks. So that doesn't say after the bowl game. It says in the coming weeks. And National Signing Day is on Wednesday, Danielle. Yeah. And so there's a lot of defensive recruits that are going to sign with Nebraska. They're going to want to know who will be the defensive play caller. So Matt Rule has to have some sort of answer to give to his recruits before they put the pen to paper on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's just kind of an odd timing. I think maybe we also mentioned, too, is that, they're now going to start gearing up for bowl game possibilities. But just when we thought, 1 week without having some Husker football news, here we go on a Monday.
But this is the college football calendar. If anybody followed the Lane Kiffin saga with Ole Miss and LSU, beyond his decision, it really highlights how janky the NCAA's calendar is, because there are teams that are trying to get ready for conference championships this week and then the college football playoff. And now there's recruiting with signing day coming up on Wednesday. And you have all these coaches. I know we're specifically talking about a defensive coordinator, but there are now head coaches that are moving spots. Ole Miss is in the playoff. Mm-hmm. They won't have their head coach with them for the playoff. It's just crazy.
Crazy time.
And I didn't even mention the calendar for people entering the portal and what that all. It is so incredibly messy. But if Matt Rule is going to make a change, you'd prefer to get ahead of it, and so maybe that sheds a little bit of light on the timing of all of this.
Mm-hmm. And so kind of on a lighter note with Husker football team, prepping for a bowl game, as I just mentioned, what are some possibilities for them?
Okay, so if you look at the Big Ten's tie-ins to the bowl games for 2025, you can safely assume that Michigan is going to be selected toward the top of the list. Of course, you have Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon, who are all going to go to the playoffs. So take them out of the Big Ten mix for the bowl games that are tied to the Big Ten. Michigan's going to go, and I believe after Iowa defeated Nebraska on Friday, they're going to Tampa. I think everybody has a pretty high confidence in that happening. Underneath that leaves Nebraska, Illinois, and Minnesota. And then there are 3 games in which will be selected kind of in this order, the Las Vegas Bowl, the Music City Bowl, and the Rate Bowl. So you can liken it for Nebraska's chances in the bowl destination that they may have to one of those 3. It's a matter now of, with the Las Vegas Bowl picking first, who do they want out of those 3 teams? Do they want Illinois, who has a better record than Nebraska? Do they want Nebraska, who is 7-5 but has a fan base that will help line the wallets of the people that fund the Las Vegas Bowl? Or are they going to take Minnesota, which beat Nebraska? So take your pick. I think a lot of the sentiment over the weekend was Nebraska was going to be going to Las Vegas, but now the narrative has shifted a little bit to possibly the Music City Bowl. The Las Vegas Bowl, by the way, ties in with a Pac-12 opponent. The Music City Bowl ties in with an SEC opponent.
Yeah, at least maybe somewhere fun or, maybe a little warmer than what we've been experiencing here in Lincoln. And lucky for the Iowa Hawkeyes, they're going to Tampa.
They are going to Tampa. And so long answer short, Nebraska Bowl situation, Las Vegas, Music City Bowl. The official announcement will come this upcoming Sunday. So the possibility of going to the Music City Bowl and facing LSU, I think that's kind of spicy. I think a lot of folks would agree with that because of the Lane Kiffin factor. And it's an SEC team. That game is on the 30th. By the way, the Las Vegas Bowl is on the 31st. So everybody's wanting to set some plans for the holidays and what does it look like, and just give it a few more days, and perhaps we'll get a little bit more clarity on where Nebraska potentially is going. The most likely opponent, if it were to be the Las Vegas Bowl, would be Utah. Utah's had a very good season. Kyle Whittingham is one of the best coaches in college football. That could be a dangerous matchup for Nebraska.
Mm-hmm. And so we know that committees love a little bit of drama when it comes to lining up some of these games, and that's also included in the NCAA volleyball tournament.
Oh, yes.
So what are your thoughts on how the Huskers drew in their quadrant and kind of their side of the bracket?
Nice segue there, by the way. If you're talking about the storylines, the NCAA loves them when they put together their bracket, whether it's volleyball, baseball, basketball. Nebraska potentially is going to play Louisville in Danny Busboom Kelly's first year away from Louisville, and that would be for a spot in the Final Four. Yeah. So Danny even mentioned that she kind of knew that was coming.
Yeah.
And Harper Murray even said that it'd be great because Danny would get to see her old coaches and her old players, you know?
And I don't think there's any bad blood between the leaving or anything. And so I think, even when she was still there, we were Husker fans rooting for Louisville fans, and vice versa when they're not playing each other.
Listen, this team is so good. When the bracket is revealed, I don't think it changes anything for the fan base that follows this team. And I don't think it changes anything internally for Nebraska. It's almost like put whoever on our schedule and bring them on. We're that good. They're 30-0, Danielle. It was no surprise that they're the number one seed. There was no drama on Sunday when the bracket was revealed.
On our side, at least.
There was no drama, I don't think, anywhere, really, from a Nebraska perspective. The only thing that would have been jarring would be if Texas or I don't know. There's no drama. The team is going to play in Kansas City. They're that good.
And Nebraska fans travel well, and it's just right there in Kansas City. So, and what do you think on our road there when it comes to, first couple of games? I know some people were maybe scared that Miami and Texas A&M had taken, I think Texas A&M, had beat Texas. Miami, I think, maybe had beaten Pitt. So just maybe a little drama there. But didn't we face them last year in the tournament?
I feel like Nebraska is always somewhere in the vicinity of Miami when the NCAA volleyball bracket is released. One of the cool things that maybe some folks don't realize, of course, you look at the path to the Final Four, right? Nebraska's never lost a first-round match. So LIU, the Sharks, okay. Hope you enjoy your time in Lincoln. Hopefully the snow gets off the roads, know. But they're going to get to play in the Devaney Center. And some of those teams that they're automatic qualifiers from some of the lower conferences, they always speak so highly of just the experience and getting to see what volleyball is like at the level in which it is played and the fan support in Lincoln. So that'll be cool for LIU. The potential second-round game, which would be Saturday night at 7 o'clock, possibly going to be against Kansas State. Mm-hmm. Kansas State's leading attacker is a Lincoln native, Shaylee Myers, and they have a couple other tie-ins locally with the Wildcats. That's pretty fun. They're a former Nebraska video coordinator is on their staff, Kelly O'Connor. So that with it being a regional team, there's some appeal to Kansas State being here in Lincoln. So it's kind of fun. There's an Elmwood Murdoch player, a middle blocker from Elmwood Murdoch that's at Kansas State. So there's some, I guess, some intrigue, but it doesn't change the drama or the potential outcome. Right? Nebraska is going to get through the first couple of matches. Then comes the regionals, and I'm more curious, when are the regional matches going to be? Will Nebraska be playing on Thursday and Saturday, or is it Friday, Sunday? People want to set their plans, Danielle.
Yes, and some people want to go,
Yeah.
and get down there. This first match is Friday against, as you mentioned, Long Island University, the Sharks.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to mention about Nebraska volleyball as they get on their quest to get a national championship?
Again, there was no drama. No drama because everybody knew they would be the number one seed. Everybody knew that they've been number one the entire year, by the way. 30-0. They lost only one set at home. Their home match winning streak, 60 now in the NCAA tournament? Just ridiculous. So they play at home this week. They'll host regionals next week. You've got the bracket pulled up, or you had it pulled up, so you can see who the potential opponents would be, possibly facing Louisville for a trip to the Final Four. And then the Final Four is going to be in Kansas City in a couple of weeks.
They've been so dominant this year. Final question, I promise, is they've been so dominant, but would a loss earlier maybe
No.
keep some of the pressure off?
No.
Do you think that it's going to impact them at all that they haven't, or are they just that hungry of a team here this year, and the years past they've got that drive in them?
They're that good of a team. I mean, some teams do need a loss to just get that out of their system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Nebraska had theirs. It was by losing a set. Seriously.
Yeah.
Because they were sweeping everybody. They lost one set, and when that happened, when they were out on the West Coast, Bergen Riley even mentioned, we just got to be free after that. So it's really nice when your team is that good that your loss isn't even a loss. It's just like
Yeah.
they didn't get to 25 points first. And I believe that was even a deuce game. No, it wasn't. It was like 25-18, 25-19, something like that. So it's a well-oiled machine. And tomorrow they're going to announce the Big Ten awards. Mm-hmm. I am fascinated by this. I'm fascinated by the National Player of the Year conversation because Nebraska is so deep and so talented. Bergen Riley's stats aren't gaudy, but she's a National Player of the Year candidate, and in my opinion, I think she should be the National Player of the Year.
And it's so hard when there's outside hitters like Olivia Babcock who's putting up these insane numbers, but when you look at it, who's running the offense and like the hitting efficiency is just mind blowing.
Andy Jackson has a legitimate case to be that National Player of the Year. So even though we're talking about those awards are going to come out during the Final Four, Big Ten Player of the Year is going to be announced on Tuesday. Who is it? I think it's a Nebraska player, but I don't know who it's going to be.
Yeah.
You could make a case for Harper Murray. You can make a case for Andy Jackson. You can make a case for Bergen Riley. Bergen Riley is going to be the setter of the year. She's won the Big Ten setter of the week essentially every week throughout the course of the season. So there was no drama. There was nothing that caught me off guard with the NCAA bracket. The drama that I see in the postseason for Nebraska, some of these individual awards, just because they're so deep and they haven't had to roll out the same 6 players, 7 players throughout the course of the season. They've really mixed and matched a lot of things. And, if you even look at Bergen's assists per sets, she's like 30-something nationally.
Yeah.
And she's the best setter in the country.
Yeah, something we'll be keeping a close eye on here for sure. So thanks, Kevin.
Yep, you bet.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, everyone, for watching. And for more Husker coverage, you can visit our website and follow us on all our social platforms. Don't forget to download that app on Roku as well. From our newsroom to wherever you are, we'll see you on the next stream.
You've been listening to the REPORT Husker Show, sponsored by Fat Dog's Convenience Store. Watch, listen, and stream on the 1011 Now app, on YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more Husker coverage throughout the week, watch The End Report on 1011 Sports at 6 and 10 p.m. and download the 1011 Now app.